All right, thank you for stopping by. So, what we're going to do right now is we're going to do a quick review of the Esports Boxing Club E3 video that was released today. The game was showcased at E3. I was actually able to see it earlier today, and I wasn't able to do a live reaction, but we're gonna do like a reaction and just talk about it right now. Now, for those of you guys that don't actually know, Esports Boxing Club is a brand new boxing club that is in development by the boys over at Steel City Interactive. They're doing a pretty good job so far. And of course, everybody is anticipating this game because it's been a very long time since we got a boxing game. And the last boxing game, the last good boxing game that we got was Fight Night Champion, and we're all very hungry for a brand new boxing game. So to say that we are very optimistic that this game ends up being very good is going to be an understatement. We're all really hoping that this game ends up being good, but the question is, just based on what we've seen so far, does that feel all of us with confidence that the game is going to be good? I don't know. That's what we're going to find out. So I'm going to go ahead and switch this screen right here. Let's go ahead and check out the video that we saw today at E3, and then we'll briefly talk about it. So here we go.
Coming later in 2021, Esports Boxing Club brings you the greatest fight roster in video game history. With over 200 fighters already signed, we've got some of the biggest and most anticipated names. Greatest of all time. From the absolute legends of the sport to the most exciting names in boxing today. The first women's division ever represented in a video game, and the hottest new talent. But what about the game? Let's take a closer look at the next-gen visuals and gameplay that are set to make ESBC the greatest of all time.
It's good. It's definitely one for the grandkids and stuff to say, like your old granddad was in a game and busting people up. So it's going to be quite cool.
So the movement system in ESBC is all about fluidity, being able to create angles, recreating mannerisms from boxes. The physics system doesn't just rely on animation. This allows us to recreate realistic knockdowns. Even when a fighter's unsteady on their feet, it's not purely animation based. Now, we've had professional boxers, professional coaches come into the studio and provide input through motion capture and actually reviewing the game during its development. And now we really feel like we've created a true representation of the sport. Presentation is important to us. Just because we are in the studio, we're still going to aim high when it comes to production values.
Esports Boxing Club coming to PC and all major consoles with early access in 2021.
Okay, so man. See, it gets really difficult, right, to talk about these things honestly, because there are a lot of people out there that are just so. How about this? Here's what we're going to do. Let's look at the positives, okay? Let's look at the positives here. First of all, the graphics. This is something that we've talked about in the past. It's not new. We've talked about how incredible the graphics are. Truly next gen. Truly next gen. Like when you see some of these character models, the way that they look. Where is it? When we take a look at these character models, the way they look incredible. They look really good. Truly next gen. Second thing that I noticed as we were looking at this trailer, it's something that they've not shown before. The cuts. I mean, this is ridiculous. But it's also the sort of thing that we've wanted to see in a combat sports game for a very long time. Like when you take a look at UFC, for example, you can tell that they kind of scale it back in terms of how violent and how gruesome the cuts can get. And we've seen some very gruesome cuts in MMA. And I feel like if you're going to do a mixed martial arts game justice, you have to also showcase that extremely violent side of it, that side of it where fighters can have broken bones, where fighters can get ridiculous cuts, where a fight can be ended by a doctor's stoppage. I feel like it's very important to showcase that aspect of it, and if you don't do that, you're doing a game a disservice. Then again, it also depends on what you're aiming for. You know what I mean? Because when you do stuff like this, when you show cuts, I mean, this is extremely graphic. When you're showing stuff like this, it's going to be very difficult to market the game to everyone. You know what I mean? It's not going to be E for everyone or T for teen. This game is most likely going to be rated R. It's most likely going to be rated R. And of course, when you do that, you market the game to a smaller audience that might affect revenue. So these are things that, you know, of course, EA thinks about. They want to be able to, they want the game to appeal to as many people as possible. Well, I mean, I think this is going to end up being rated R because this is pretty graphic. Now, whether it ends up being rated R, I don't know, but that's just what I think, just because of how graphic some of this stuff is. But like I was saying, man, like this is good because it happens in boxing. Boxers do get cut this badly all the time. So for them to show this, it's very, very good. It's very good, very good, very good graphics right here. And then, of course, the movement, the locomotion style. It is something that we've talked about in the past. Really, really good movement with these boxers. I love how fluid it is. I have been curious in the past if a lot of these movements that they're doing, if it is something that we can control ourselves, or if a lot of the movement is automated. We still don't have that question answered yet, but still, the locomotion style of these boxers, really, really good. Another really good positive from this game is the roster. Huge, a lot of fighters, like over 200 fighters, I believe. Some very notable names in there. We've got Vasily Lomachenko. We've got Canelo Alvarez. We've got Muhammad Ali, Joe Frazier. I know, if I remember correctly, I think Roy Jones Jr. is also in there. And not just that, we're also going to get for the very first time a women's division in a boxing game. We've never had that. So the roster is just already better than any roster in a boxing game that we've ever seen. So just right off the bat, solid A on that. And then, of course, the physics of the game. They talk about how they're not just looking for canned animations. You know, a lot of what you're going to see, especially in terms of when a fighter gets knocked down, as you guys can see right there, the way he drops, that's not an animation. This is straight up ragdoll, and this was a huge issue a lot of people had with UFC 4, where when the game, I think it was worse in UFC 3 when the game dropped, it was all animation, and then in UFC 4, it's a mixture of animation and then ragdoll. The ragdoll, I believe, kicks in very early, and then animation kicks in towards the end to make sure that the fighters fall in a natural way, because sometimes you can kind of overdo it with the ragdoll and then it ends up just looking comical and not realistic. I mean, the human body still has to fall in a realistic way. So the fact that they're focusing on a physics-based kind of movement system, that's a very good thing as opposed to animation. And the reason for that is animations get old. You know, it's very difficult to produce hundreds and hundreds of different animations that you see a different one every single time. But with ragdoll, and it's not animation, so we get to see something new every single time, depending on how the fighter gets hit. That's the good thing with the ragdolls. But if it was animations, you're just going to see the same animations over and over and over and over again, kind of like in UFC 1, where it was the same exact animations ad infinitum, and it got to a point where it just gets super boring. So really good job, the fact that they're focusing on ragdolls right here. I also love the menus that we saw. As you guys can see, it's a realistic combat. This is yet to be seen. It's going to be very difficult for me to see realistic combat until I see actual gameplay. Like, I'd love to see an actual full round of Esports Boxing Club gameplay before we can get to that. Because right now, all we've been seeing are, you know, but we'll get to that. Right there, where was it? They showed presentation. The fact that they're focusing on presentation. I mean, this is something I think is extremely important. And I've used a car as a way to kind of describe my thoughts on this, because a lot of times when you take a look at the EA model, especially with the way that they create mixed martial arts games, there's clearly more focus put on what's happening under the hood as opposed to what the car looks like. And I personally feel like both of them are just as important. What a car looks like and the way it actually drives, they're all important. Because if your car drives really, really well, but it looks like shit, a lot of people are not going to want to drive your car. What makes people want to drive your car is when they look at the car and like, oh my God, that is a beautiful car. Okay, so now that we've established that it's a beautiful car, what does this car drive like? What is the gas mileage like? What is the safety of this car like? Stuff like that. That's what people start to look at. Okay, what's under the hood like? How fast does it go? What's the type of engine? Is it an automatic? You start thinking about all this stuff. And I feel like it's the same with video games. If you focus completely on what's happening under the hood and you don't focus enough on your animations and your presentation, on the graphics, on everything on the outside, the beauty of the game, if that is not also important, your game can get lost to a lot of people because they look at the game at first glance and they're like, this game looks like crap, I'm not going to play it, even if the game plays well. So the fact that they're focusing heavily on the presentation of the gameplay, I really, really like that. Of course, presentation has to do with the environment, has to do with the way the menus are set up. Menu looking clean, looking very clean. Of course, we've got Canelo Alvarez right there, quick fight. This is most likely not even going to be what it's going to look like when it's all said and done. A lot of this probably will end up getting changed, but so far so good. It's looking pretty good. We've got quick fight. Continue is career mode where you get to create your fighter, store where you can go and purchase fighters and stuff. News, something tells me this is gonna have to do with like actual real life news and events right there. And then right there, local, not sure what this is going to mean. Of course, career mode, the ability to go online, your boxer, create, and so the presentation looking pretty goddamn good. Right there, your ability, I think this is going to be like a career mode, I think so. Like you can start your career with an existing fighter or you can create a brand new fighter. I like that for sure. And then this is probably online stuff. International Boxing Federation, World Boxing Council, World Boxing Organization, probably some online stuff. And then this is probably what it's just gonna look like when you're actually picking your fighters. I'm very happy that they're using like actual in-game fighters to do this as opposed to like a real picture or something. I was a little bit worried about that, but this is the actual character models in the game that you'll see as you pick your fighters. So presentation looking pretty goddamn good. Underneath, you've got the ring, you've got the crowd, the colors, everything looks good. Looks nice and flashy. So that is it. And of course, the game is going to come out Xbox One, PS4, PS5, PC as well. So, and early access in 2021. We don't know when the release date is yet. We don't know when the game is dropping just yet. So that is it for all the positives. Again, huge roster, over 200 fighters, women's division, Muhammad Ali in there, Sugar Ray Leonard, Canelo Alvarez, you've got Terrence Crawford in there, Clarissa Shields, who just made her MMA debut and actually won the fight by ground and pound, having women's division in there, Roy Jones Jr. also being in the game, the graphics, just a lot of positives that we can take for sure. And I mean, I would say all the positives are positives that we already know for the most part, but it's always good to reiterate. And the negatives are negatives that I feel have just been there. I mean, I don't understand why they're still showing alpha footage. I mean, I don't get it. Perhaps the game is still in alpha, but even if it is, like, if you guys take a look at this trailer right here or whatever that they showed, like 90% of what they showed we've already seen. We've seen this right here. We've already seen this. We've seen this footage before. We've seen that footage before. Like a vast majority of what they showed, we've already seen. We've seen this before. I feel like if they're going to do this for E3, something as big as E3, I feel like maybe show something new, something that we haven't seen before, better footage, but I'm trying not to be too nitpicky because a lot of what I'm going to say, I've already said before, and I believe that if repeating yourself too much, everything just gets super old. A lot of the issues I have with the animations, how robotic a lot of it looks, we've already talked about it in the past, so there's no need going back to talking about that. So at this point, I'll just put it this way. Let me get back to this screen. At this point, I'll say what I'm hoping for right now with this game is I'd like to see some gameplay. I don't know when they can show us some actual, and I'm not talking about seconds. I'd love to see a full round of gameplay where you take two fighters and you play the game, try to play it as realistically as you possibly can, try to show you a game in the most beautiful light you possibly can, and just release it. Just one round of gameplay, just so we can see how the camera action looks, how the characters actually move around when they're being controlled in a full round of gameplay, how the punches look, the jabs, crosses, hooks, uppercuts, haymakers, how all those shots look, how it all looks in a full round of gameplay, because that's gonna give the people that are looking forward to your game a better idea of what to expect from the game. You know what I mean? And I don't know when we're going to see that, but that is definitely what I'm looking forward to seeing right now, because if we just keep seeing the same things that we've already seen over and over and over again, it just gets old. It really does. So, that is really it, man. There's not much to react to. There really isn't much to react to. Like I said, all the positives we already know them. The locomotion style, the graphics, the presentation, career mode, the fighters. I think that's the biggest thing. The fighters, the fact that we're gonna get a lot of fighters, the female fighters in the game as well, the legends in the game. The cuts, which is a very good thing because a boxing game should be represented properly in that sense. And then everything else, I'm just keeping my fingers crossed that we see updated animations, we see just updated gameplay, something a little bit better than what we've seen so far. I'm hoping that once it goes past alpha, because they keep showing us alpha footage, once it goes past alpha, whatever it is that we're seeing is going to be updated, not just better than what we've seen right now. So I'm going to leave it at that. Like I said, there's just not much to say. Overall, am I still excited for Esports Boxing Club? Of course. Absolutely. And I think everyone should still be excited for the game. Just be smart. Just don't be an idiot. You know what I mean? Look at what your eye is showing you and then act accordingly. Because if you blow this out of proportion and it doesn't live up to the mystique that you've created for the game, the amount of disappointment you're going to experience, it's going to shock you. So just a healthy amount of excitement and all the optimism in the world, but a healthy amount of excitement. Be excitement in a reasonable way, because there is no guarantees. There are no guarantees whatsoever. And I will leave it at that. Good luck to the homies at Steel City Interactive. I wish you guys the best. What you guys are doing is not easy. And whether this works out exactly as you want it to, or whether it fails, you have my respect. And I commend you guys for at least trying, because no one else is. And you guys are jumping in. you're doing, you're pouring money into this, you're pouring your heart and your soul into this, and truly, I mean no disrespect whatsoever when I critique any aspect of the game. I hope you guys, those of you that are making, like, if you see my videos, I hope that you can see that. I hope you can see that. I wish you guys the best, and I will leave it at that. Thank you for watching, folks. If you enjoyed the video, go ahead and leave a like on it, and I will see you guys later. Peace out.